Having increased incidents of students vaping in the halls or in the bathrooms. They're catching more students.
Washrooms, outside, in class if they can get away with it.
Some GTA schools have resorted to locking bathrooms to keep students from hiding to vape. As the number of young people vaping has exploded recently, so too has the problem of students using vapes in schools. Now administrators are taking drastic measures like fining students hundreds of dollars to get them to stop. Lorena Redekop explains.
The signs are everywhere, inside and outside schools.
Washrooms, outside, in class if they can get away with it. Just when the teacher's not looking, and then just blow it in their shirt.
The school's really been cracking down because people try and hide in the bathrooms and do their vape, and the school's not happy about it.
See all the kids in the washroom all the time, walking in and out with their little jewels and whatnot.
We went inside Sinclair Secondary School to see the no vaping signs in the washrooms. We were surprised that a vice principal had to unlock the door for us. He told us they made the washroom off limits because of all the vaping happening there. He told us this washroom was down a more secluded hallway and that all others are open and accessible to students. He also said that from now on, they'd be leaving that washroom unlocked. The school board was surprised to hear it, but says it's not against policy.
They have to give the students alternatives. So if one bathroom's locked, they have to have other multiple bathrooms open in safe places that can be supervised.
I don't think they should do that because if I have a class right by the washroom, right, and it's locked, then I have to go all the way to a different floor near the cafeteria. That's the one always locked. Because every time I'm eating, I have to go pee and the washroom's locked. So I can't. I have to go walk all the way down.
School boards are also working with public health authorities. Students can be fined $305. In Durham, they laid 2 fines in 2018, 15 so far in 2019. In Toronto, they laid 4 charges last school year, none so far this year. Public health officials want tighter rules around advertising and packaging, but students aren't just buying in the stores.
A bigger concern to us is actually the online sales, which has very, very limited control.
Students are also aware of the health issues and deaths south of the border connected to vaping, and some told us that's one reason they're not taking up the habit.
I play hockey, so I don't want to, I hear it's bad for your lungs, so I don't want to lose my breath and die of it at a young age.
Lorena Redekop, CBC News, Whitby.
We are less than a week into the federal election campaign. Already the leaders have been making promises about lots of issues they think are key to winning votes. Now tonight we're continuing our series looking at the concerns CBC Toronto viewers say are the most important to them. It's called 5 Issues in 5 Weeks. Shannon Martin joins us live with this now. And Shannon, we put out the call last night and it's no surprise we heard housing affordability is putting a lot of strain on some families.
That's right. We want to thank our CBC Toronto Instagram followers in particular who really got in touch and were saying again and again, I work a good job, but I'm struggling to pay rent. We are live tonight in the riding of University Rosedale. You might think of multi-million-dollar mansions, but it is home to plenty of high rises. And a new study out today says it's one of the worst ridings when it comes to rent affordability. Housing advocates say housing and the cost of living must be one of the top issues this election.
Are we hungry? Yeah.
Baby Jackson is just 11 days old. As soon as there's kids in the picture, it's all about them, right?
It is. It's all about him and what makes us work harder for him and to build a better future for him and a better home for him.
Jessica Patello currently rents near Caledonia and Eglinton, but she's hoping to buy.
It's not like I'm asking to have, marble counters or $100,000 worth of work. I just want something that's decent.
Easier said than done, buying or renting.
The rates that people are paying for rental housing are going up astronomically.
A new report released today suggests nowhere is that more true than in the GTA. Of the 20 ridings across Canada with the toughest rental markets, 11 are in Ontario. Toronto's Willowdale fares the worst. 39% of tenants there spend half or more of their income on rent.
To the next federal government, we say, ignore this issue at your peril. During this election, you have a chance to put forth your ideas, but then act on those ideas, whomever forms government.
A lot of people are struggling to find housing.
This morning, Jagmeet Singh announced an NDP government would build 500,000 new affordable homes over 10 years, starting with an investment of $5 billion. How his party would achieve that?
We're going to have a lot more to say, a lot more announcements around how we're going to do this, but it's a matter of choices, and we're going to do it.
NDP want to build 500,000 new homes. That doesn't work for Toronto because there's really nowhere to build new houses. There's a lot of condos being built.
This new mom just wants more concrete, immediate solutions.
For me, it's, we're going to do about the interest rates. We're going to do to make it easier for affordable housing.
Last week, the Liberals announced their plan to help first-time homebuyers in hot markets like the GTA. And we know Conservative Andrew Scheer is planning to announce his housing strategy sometime soon. Dwight?
All right, thank you for that, Shannon. We'll keep them coming. We want to make sure the issues that are important to you are part of the campaign conversation. So reach out to us by email, phone, or on social media. Email us at mygtaelection@cbc.ca. Call us at 416-205-6000 or connect with CBC Toronto on Instagram, Twitter, and Facebook. We'll do our best to tackle the issues that matter to you and the GTA. A new survey shows that 1 in 3 Canadians have taken on a side hustle. Whether it's launching their own small business or working as an Uber driver, many see it as a way to pursue their passion while raking in some extra cash. Philip De Montagny explains.
By day, Jermel Pierre is the head of business development for a Toronto cannabis company.
Good, we got 15 seconds here.
By night, he's a fitness coach, working for his own side business, RX Fit.
For you to make ends meet, for you to be able to live a life that you want and also be prepared for retirement, you have to do a little bit more, and that side hustle allows us to do that.
And he's not alone. According to a new survey by Sage Canada, nearly a third of working Canadians manage or engage in a side business on top of their day job.
With almost half, 49% actually, they're looking for a more flexible work environment.
Sage Canada's managing director says millennials form the largest demographic to embrace this new trend of work and start side gigs.
The barriers to entry are lower, so that millennial crowd who is much more driven by getting satisfaction out of what they're doing, they can decide what that means to them.
Both my partner Richard and I, we both have side gigs and side hustles, and we're careful with our money, and you have to if you want to have a little bit of freedom and flexibility in life, right?
Jason Pelletier works for a Catholic school board and moonlights as a drag queen several nights a week.
I was able to clear off some debt, pay off the car quicker than what I was expecting to, and put a down payment on the house.
For many, it was as a side job to top up income.
The Bank of Canada's senior deputy governor says the gig economy has its own set of challenges, an unstable flow of income and limited bargaining powers for workers like Uber drivers and Foodora couriers.
But many of these workers indicate that they'd prefer more stability.
Don't worry, partner, I'm not.
But for this young entrepreneur, having a side hustle has allowed him to pursue his passion.
The old notion was you get a degree, you get into one career path, and you stay in that career path for 40, 50 years, and then you retire. And that to me just sounds really boring.
Philippe de Montigny, CBC News, Toronto.
Some breaking news out of Oshawa tonight. General Motors says 1,200 of their workers at the Oshawa plant were sent home this afternoon because of the GM strike in the U.S. The 1,200 workers were scheduled to work the afternoon shift. GM's vice president says they will be recalled once the U.S. labor situation is resolved. The workers were sent home because the strike has limited the number of parts shipped to Canada. 49,000 auto workers have walked off the job in the U.S. after their union called for a strike against General Motors over failed negotiations. The dispute is over a new 4-year contract. Issues include pay increases, job security, and affordable health care. The strike brought more than 50 factories and parts warehouses across 9 U.S. states to a standstill. It is the biggest work stoppage by the union in over a decade. If you drive a Toyota and it's in need of repairs, you may have to wait a while to get them done. The company is experiencing a huge backlog for delivering parts, with frustrated customers waiting months for their cars. Greg Ross has more.
You haven't seen your car in 45 days.
No, and I have no idea when I'll see the car.
Mohammed Shafi's 2017 Toyota Sienna has been parked in this lot at CarStar Brampton since the end of July, when he was involved in an accident. He was told the reason for the delay is that there are 7 parts on backorder from Toyota.
I do not know what those 7 parts are.
It turns out Shafi's van is not alone.
We're running out of spots where to put these cars.
Frank Sotile operates 2 CarStar locations in Brampton. He says back in June, they started having problems getting parts for Toyota and Lexus vehicles, which are made by Toyota. Since then, the waiting list has continued to grow.
We have over 20 vehicles that are sitting on our property, and we have probably close to another 20 vehicles that are out on the road that are driving damaged vehicles that we're waiting to schedule in until we receive those parts.
Sotile says at first, Toyota wasn't exactly forthcoming with an explanation for the delays.
At the beginning, there was no communication to why the parts were not coming in. They were just not showing up.
Which left CarStar to deal with angry customers on their own.
So our customers are blaming us. They don't realize that it's an issue from Toyota. They're bringing the car to us for repairs, and they think that because we're the ones fixing their car, that we're the ones holding their car back.
In a statement to the CBC, a representative from Toyota said Toyota Canada is currently undergoing a planned systems transformation. As a result, we are encountering some delays in parts deliveries. We are doing everything we can to minimize disruptions and return to our normal service levels as quickly as possible. But Shafi isn't buying it. He says if this was planned, they should have been prepared to deal with these kinds of issues.
They should have had a system in place which would have identified the individuals that were impacted by this change.
Shafi has been driving a rental car since his accident, but his insurance only covers a maximum of $1,500 for rental cars. He says after multiple phone calls to Toyota, he was able to get them to agree to pay the remainder of his costs. He says he would rather just have his van back, which he leases for $535 a month.
Why am I paying a lease, making lease payments on a car that I'm not using?
Greg Ross, CBC News, Toronto.
That was a good question. Remember, if you have a story you would like us to look into, we would love to hear from you. Just send us an email, torontotips@cbc.ca. Toronto police are asking for the public's help after a senior was killed. The 72-year-old was shot in his car while parked outside Tony's Espresso Bar near Dufferin and Glencairn. Natalie Nanowski has the story.
The victim has been identified as Vito Lapola. The 72-year-old has been going to this coffee shop for 30 years.
I know the residents say he is a retired small-time contractor, carpenter, basically. He was about 70 years of age. He was a very likable person.
This afternoon, the cafe was buzzing with people, all of whom said they were too rattled to go on camera, simply adding that Lapola was often seen on his laptop, sipping coffee. The shooting happened last night, just after 6. Police say a suspect was seen getting out of a white SUV before firing several shots.
So what we understand has happened is so far is that the shooter actually got out on foot, progressed to do the shooting, and then got back in the vehicle, and the vehicle drove northbound.
This is Toronto's 43rd homicide of the year and one of several shootings in the area. The local councillor says gun violence is out of control.
And nowadays, anyone could be shot, and it's a false sense of security to think, well, it's a gang, it's them, or it's targeted. The thing is, there are guns everywhere. We can't walk on our main streets in Canada's largest cities, and nobody's doing anything about it, federally, provincially.
Police have released a description of the suspect. They're looking for someone between 5'10 and 5'11, dressed all in black. They're also asking anyone with surveillance footage or a dash cam video to come forward. Natalie Danowski, CBC News, Toronto.
And a man in his 20s suffered serious injuries after he was shot in Mississauga earlier this morning. It happened just before 2 a.m. near Burnhamthorpe and Central Parkway. Police say the man was getting into his car when he was shot. The victim was taken to hospital where he is now in non-life-threatening condition. Police believe this was a targeted attack. They are looking for 2 male suspects wearing dark clothing with their faces covered. It's believed they got away in a silver Hyundai. Investigators are asking anyone with information to to come forward. The head of the RCMP says the case of Cameron Ortus has shaken the force and raised concerns among Canada's allies about the security of their intelligence information. Ortus was arrested last Thursday. He was a high-level civilian employee of the RCMP who had access to some of the most sensitive secrets in the Allied intelligence community. Evan Dyer has the details.
Commissioner Brenda Lucki didn't really reveal any new details about the investigation into Cameron Ortus or the kind of secrets he might have leaked or to whom, but she was quite frank when she was asked about the effect this has had within the RCMP and also on Canada's allies, talking about the Five Eyes allies whose intelligence and secrets may also have been compromised by Cameron Ortus's leak.
We are aware of the potential risk to operations of our partner agencies in Canada and abroad, and we are working in partnership to ensure mitigating strategies are in place.
Commissioner Lucki talked about how this event has been extremely unsettling, not only for Canada's intelligence agencies, but also for their counterparts around the world who may have also seen sensitive information compromised. She said they were shaken. And of course, one of the signal features really of this case is that while other countries have seen breaches of security, so has Canada too. They often involve more junior people. Canada's Jeffrey DeLisle, for example, sub-lieutenant in the Canadian Navy, or Edward Snowden and Chelsea Manning in the United States. Again, fairly junior people whose jobs just happen to bring them into contact with sensitive information. Cameron Ortus is an entirely different kettle of fish. He was Director General of Canada's National Intelligence Coordination Centre, someone very senior. In fact, one of a handful of people probably in Canada who would have been in charge of catching individuals who were doing exactly the kind of activities that he himself was alleged to have been involved in. Evan Dyer, CBC News, Ottawa.
The end of summer officially just days away, but with the sunny and warm conditions outside, you can't tell, Colin.
No, you can't tell. Just beautiful conditions that we have and that we're going to continue to experience for a few more days yet as we are winding down what is officially summer and coming towards fall on Monday. So this is what your headlines look like then. The pattern is going to hold as high pressure sits in place. Some slight changes just in the sky conditions on Wednesday, tomorrow, that we'll see a little more cloud cover in there. And then, yes, so when is the next chance we're going to see rain showers? Well, maybe fall's going to come in with some wet and not necessarily cooler conditions. So that's how it looks at this point, that as we get towards the end of the weekend, the next chance of showers. I say at this point because we'll keep kind of working that. The further out we get, the confidence in the forecast dips a little bit. I'm confident that what we have right now, though, our current temperatures right here, 21 degrees in Toronto, Oshawa, a little warmer, 22. These numbers here are your dew points. So in terms of the moisture content of the air, this is why it's so comfortable out there. These numbers relatively low. Those will start to creep up as we get towards the end of this week. So it's going to start to feel sticky. And we're going to talk about the humidex since it's still going to be summertime. All right, the satellite radar imagery shows the dry conditions. This is our ridge of high pressure kind of blocking any systems from making their way in and having an impact on us, other than to see this little bit of extra cloud cover tonight and kind of mixing in there at times tomorrow, especially it looks like earlier in the day. So Dwight, overnight tonight, 12 degrees, tomorrow afternoon, almost a repeat of today, 22.
Oh, looking good. Thank you, Colette.
You're welcome.
I think people are as happy about it as I am, which is a great feeling. People are shocked that it's happening, and it's happening here.
Born in Toronto, raised in Brampton, and last night, Havaya Mighty made history at the Polaris Prize Gala. I speak with the winner of one of the most prestigious awards in Canadian music next.
The weather update is brought to you by Train Extreme Conditions Testing. It's hard to stop a train, really hard. Train, the most reliable heating and cooling brand.
She's been called Canada's most exciting new hip-hop artist, and last night, she was recognized for that talent.
13th floor, Havana Mighty!
Avaya Mighty receiving a Polaris Prize for her album 13th Floor. The prize goes to the best Canadian album of the year based only on artistic merit. It also comes with $50,000. This is Mighty's first full-length solo album, written about her experience as a woman of color in today's society. I spoke to her earlier today about what it means to win the big prize.
It feels like, about time, number one, it's incredible. It's interesting that it hasn't, but I think, this is a great record to be the first, and I'm honored to be the person that made that record, so it's amazing.
How are you feeling today, though? You must be excited. You're like, what's going on?
I'm in euphoria. I'm still trying to process everything that's happening.
Yep. I had no idea that you're a Canadian kid. How are people reacting to your music as this Canadian female hip-hop artist?
I think people are as happy about it as I am, which is a great feeling. People are shocked that it's happening, and it's happening here.
You can tell I'm smiling. I'm like, yo, she's one of ours.
Yeah, like really, Toronto-born, Brampton raised, and just really, really Toronto-centric, and you can hear it in the album and in the amalgamation of sounds and genres that we explore. I think it's a real community win for Canada.
I'm going to talk about another one of your lines where you said, Mom and Dad were really strict. They maybe not want you to be a rapper going to this genre. How were you able to convince them that, look, I've got this talent, I can write these rhymes? How were you able to say, no, I don't want to do that. I want to do this as a career, especially with like West Indian or African parents.
Oh,
man.
Yeah.
It's hard.
I got a little bit lucky because they've always been musically supportive. They were just strict in general. So like what comes with being a musician is going to shows and getting home late. And then there's an issue with, well, your curfew is. So it wasn't that they never supported the music. They always did. And my dad never really fully, like more than ever, he understands the rap now, but he never fully got it. But he did always kind of. But then there was always the well, what are you doing with all of your time? And I don't fully understand. So it wasn't that they didn't support, it was just that they were strict parents in general that have the model of, you got to go to school, you got to figure out what you're doing next. And I respect it so much. That grind went into the music and is why I think they saw, okay, she gets it. She took all of what we gave her and she's applying it to this. Let's take a step back. And so that's kind of what that line, is speaking on. Yeah.
Another one of your lines, I keep throwing your lines out there that you keep it above the surface. And I think that, we hear a lot in the music today where it's really nursery rhyming, it's about the strip clubs and these different things. And is it important for you then to be an artist and to not play to the lowest common denominator and to keep it, as you say in one of your songs, to keep it above the surface, to keep it smart, don't dumb it down?
First of all, I like that you catch all these lines. I
love lyricism in music,
That's amazing. That's the audience that I think, gets it the most. So I love that. But I first of all, I feel like me being a female rapper has always dictated that I can't do that. Like, my reality is that I never could do that. Because there's always this lowered expectation, so I'm always like,
You say you grew up as a tomboy, too, right? You're tough.
And then, so then you're you're playing with the boys who already are like, well, you don't. So there's just, you can't do this. Like, my mind is always like, well, yes, I can. And I'm going to, overcompensate. And I'm going to go beyond what you thought was even less than you thought it could be. And so, it just feels like overcoming so much.
It says, last night you spoke about your truth and your narrative. What is the narrative that you explore in this album?
I'm a black female who is a rapper. I have dark skin tone, I have dreads. There's just a lot to stigmatize me for. There's a lot I give you all of the, that picture.
Yes.
And what comes with that is discomfort from the large majority of people in Canada. And then what comes with that discomfort is me having to adjust the way that I live my truth in order to compensate for these people's discomfort. And I feel that 13th Floor is me exploring, not caring about adapting on behalf of people's comfort and me going all the way. And that is what I mean when I'm saying speaking on my truth.
I don't want to say congratulations. It's it's like I feel such a treat to meet you.
Oh,
and I really enjoyed the album, and I'm so glad that other people are recognizing your art and this work because it is a great album. I'm really enjoying it. Congratulations.
Thank you so much.
Thanks. Congratulations.
The lady said to me after waiting in line, sorry, we don't take the coins anymore. So I'm like, what do you mean? So she's like, yeah, there's a new policy.
No coins accepted at a bank. A lot of businesses have made the switch to cashless transactions. Now, even some financial institutions are doing that. More on that story coming up. Liberal leader Justin Trudeau is one of two federal leaders courting votes from parents today. He says his government would boost the Canada Child Benefit for families with babies and would also extend 15 weeks of paid leave to adoptive parents.
That means unprecedented options for parents. And it means cementing Canada's global leadership in support of families.
The Liberal Party says all the proposed measures announced today would cost about $800 million in the first year and rise to $1.2 billion by 2023. But the Parliamentary Budget Officer has not yet released his analysis of the costs. And Conservative leader Andrew Scheer also trying to appeal to parents today.
Right now, the government gives parents a 20% grant for every dollar they put into their RESP, up to a maximum grant of $500 a year. As Prime Minister, I will increase the RESP grant from 20% to 30% for every dollar they put into their RESP, up to a maximum grant of $750 a year.
Scheer says the policy would launch in January 2022. The parliamentary budget officer says the program would cost the government about $600 million a year. After years of declining numbers, the Bloc Québécois is confident this election, their new leader is determined to win enough seats to return the BQ to official party status in the House of Commons. Alison Northcott has more.
Le Québec, c'est nous.
Quebec is us is the slogan Bloc Québécois leader Yves-François Blanchet is using to bring Quebecers back to his party.
The Bloc has been through, we must admit, a pretty important crisis. However, we are the only party of which every MP is back. Everybody is candidate again because unity is back.
With the NDP trailing in the polls, Blanchet sees an opportunity to make gains.
The Bloc could really play this kind of role of a joker and could actually create problems for the Conservatives and especially for the Liberals who are really after these NDP seats.
He says the Bloc is playing off the popularity of Quebec Premier François Legault, vowing to defend provincial government decisions in Ottawa, including the controversial secularism law, Bill 21.
Criticizing all the other federal leaders and saying we are the only ones who defend Quebec's position and Legault's position, then is a way to attract Francophone votes. It's like a vote magnet.
Is Bill 21 going to be a ballot box issue?
It will be, not because we want it to be, because it's something that should be decided by Quebec Parliament. If it happens that we do carry the voice of Quebecers better than everybody else, then people will have to make their choices.
Blanchet says he wants to focus on the environment and the need for Quebec to distance itself from a country he says is too reliant on oil. Part of the challenge is convincing voters the Bloc is still relevant.
It's a party of yesterday, and I'm more looking for tomorrow.
In this East End Montreal riding, Nicole Deschênes says secularism, culture, and language are key issues for her.
Qui va protéger les intérêts du Québec.
And says Blanchet seems like a leader who will protect Quebec's interests.
Ce que j'aime au Parti libéral.
But Estelle Locreux says for her there are more pressing issues than religious symbols and what people wear. The Bloc went into this election with 10 seats. It needs at least 2 more to return to official party status in the House of Commons. Alison Northcott, CBC News, Montreal.
We've put together a handy guide on how the main parties compare on a variety of issues, including the carbon tax, climate change, NAFTA, and small business. You can find that and the latest election news online at cbcnews.ca /party platforms. Gotta remember that slash. It's a long-standing tradition in the province. Today is the day political leaders leave the big city behind for a little while to take in the annual provincial plowing match. Provincial NDP leaders Andrea Horwath and she had some extra support in her corner today. Federal Party leader Jagmeet Singh showed up at the match in Verner, east of Sudbury, to cheer her on. He also got behind the wheel himself. Premier Ford was also there. He was asked why he hasn't been out campaigning with federal Conservative leader Andrew Scheer. Here's what he told reporters.
Obviously, I'm busy governing with our team. I'm not out there campaigning. We need to focus on governing and fixing the problems that we inherited from the previous government, which we're doing.
The Premier also saying today Ontario is sending a trade delegation to South Korea and Japan next month. Olympic champion Kaylee Humphries has been denied her request to compete for another country. Today, a judge in Calgary refused to release her from the Canadian bobsleigh team. As Aaron Collins explains, Humphries is vowing to keep up her fight.
Kaylee Humphries won't be able to start competing for the U.S. anytime soon. The 3-time Olympic medalist had wanted to compete in the U.S. Bobsled Federation's push trials on September 20th. Now, to do that, Humphries first needed a letter of release from Bobsled Canada, and to get that, she'd asked the judge to force the Canadian organization to write that letter. She'd said she wanted to leave the team because she was being harassed by the team's head coach. Now today, that request was denied in a Calgary courtroom, meaning Humphrey's quest to slide south of the border has stalled for now, at least.
It's obvious that this is purely anti-competitive on the part of Bobsleigh Canada, that they are, that the actions that they're taking are simply to hamper Kaylee's ability to compete for the United States. They said as much in court, and quite frankly, it's shocking that a Canadian sporting organization would behave in such an unsportsmanlike way.
Rath says Humphreys will still attend the U.S. push trials this week and still hopes to compete for the Americans. Now, for its part, Bobsleigh Canada says that the organization agrees with today's decision. They say it sets a precedent that will prevent athletes from switching countries. But the organization also still hopes that Kaylee Humphreys could be persuaded to compete for Canada again.
We want Kaylee in our program. Kaylee is obviously going to be a threat in the next Olympics, and there's nothing more that we like to see other than Canadians standing on the podium.
But the rift between Kaylee Humphreys and her former team isn't getting any smaller. Humphreys' lawyer says the 34-year-old will continue to sue Bobsleigh Canada for $45 million for blocking her release from the team. Aaron Collins, CBC News, Calgary.
We're all trying to soak up these last few days of summer, Colette, and beautiful days they are.
Yeah, absolutely gorgeous. The only thing that could be better is if you happen to have planned it so you have a few days off. Be out there. Be out there and enjoy it. I'd rather be here with Dwight, but if you're out there enjoying it, happy for you, and definitely some patio weather we're seeing into these evening hours as the temperatures still hold pretty comfortably, and we're actually going to be seeing some heat building in. So I'm just showing you right now the temperature trend over the next few days, simply the temperatures. So as we go into Wednesday, still the low 20s, just a tiny bit above seasonal. Thursday, we pick it up 1 degree in terms of our high, starting to get much warmer though into Friday, into southwestern Ontario, but even all around the GTA and beyond into cottage country, we're looking at highs of 25 to 26 degrees and the humidity building, so it's going to feel like we're closer to 30 degrees. Yeah, we're going to have a humidex to end this last weekend of summer that we have coming towards us, and into Saturday it looks like it's going to be a phenomenal day. Sunday is when things start to change up a little bit in terms of the weather conditions, and we're going to get into all of that. I do just want to point out that the average high at this time of year just under 21 degrees, and the average low has dipped. Yeah, it's below the double digits. 9.4 is our average low at this time. These are the current readings. This is why I say there's no problems if you want to get out there and do some things into the evening hours, because also the winds are fairly light, and so that's another reason it makes it comfortable with the low dew points and the winds being light, and then these nice temperatures, and then we still have sun until the sun falls on us, and then even through the overnight hours we get these comfortable conditions. No active weather, mostly clear skies until you'll see a little bit of cloud cover in the overnight hours trying to build down towards the north shore of the lake, and then we begin to see into the morning hours more of a mix of sun and cloud, but still there'll be plenty of sun in there as well. Thursday looks like full sunshine for the lower Great Lakes. Overnight tonight, there you go, 11 to 12 degrees then, and tomorrow's highs will be a few spots. Hamilton, St. Catharines, you'll probably pop up there to 23 degrees. Thursday, we'll see it in the city, sunshine there, and then Friday is when the humidity starts to come back in. You might break a sweat a little bit here, 26 degrees. Saturday, 27, and then it's Sunday. At this point, it does, Dwight, look like a late day when the showers will move in, but we'll keep kind of massaging that for you.
And to think I want to put away the summer clothing. I'm hanging on to them. Thank you for that, Colette.
You're welcome.
A Quebec man who had been saving rolls of nickels and dimes was shocked when his bank refused to take the coins. As strange as it sounds, turns out some Canadian banks are becoming cashless. Lauren McCallum explains.
Julien Perrotte spent a long time meticulously counting his loonies, toonies, quarters, and smaller change. He then rolled them up into neat little packages. It's no small change either. Perrotte had accumulated nearly $800 in a single year, and he was excited to deposit it into his account at the Laurentian Bank right next door. But to his shock, the bank would not take his money.
The lady said to me, after waiting in line, sorry, we don't take the coins anymore. So I'm like, what do you mean? So she's like, yeah, there's a new policy. We don't accept coins anymore.
Stunned, Perrotte asked the woman behind the counter what he should do with his coins.
Then she answers me very nicely. She's like, well, you can shop around with like grocery stores, dépanneurs, pharmacies, they love coins. They love coins. You go there and they will trade you your coins.
The Laurentian Bank would not grant us an interview, but in a statement, it confirmed that it no longer accepts coins. It says all other transactions can be done at a bank machine or by telephone so that its staff can focus on helping its clients with their financial planning. The CIBC also has some cashless branches, but many of them still accept change. The Royal Mint, the federal watchdog that oversees the country's banks, and the Canadian Bankers Association all say there is no law in place that forces banks to accept coins or any other kind of currency for that matter. Perrot is worried going cashless could be a growing trend at Canadian banks, and he wants Ottawa to do something about it.
I'm scared that for saving money and cutting down the costs, all the banks will follow eventually if there's no laws or nobody's watching them. So what will happen? So we'll get stuck with the coins. We will need to pay for getting rid of the coins.
Perrot says after 15 years, he'll close his Laurentian bank account. He's thinking of changing his ways and depositing his cash at the Desjardins branch next door. Lauren McCallum, CBC News, Montreal.
As we head to break, here's a look at where the markets closed today. No nickels and dimes here. The TSX was up by over 83 points. The Dow Jones was also up by almost 34, and the Canadian dollar traded for an average of 75.43. Yes, there's some cents here. US. We'll be right back. An investigation by CBC News and the Toronto Star has found that hundreds of homes in Peterborough could contain insulation with a high concentration of asbestos. The source of the material is a major local employer, which has quietly paid to have that insulation removed from some homes. Now it's being pressured to do more. Dave Seglins has the details.
General Electric in Peterborough. The factory shut down late last year after a century of heavy manufacturing. For decades, GE sold off scrap asbestos to its employees for use as cheap insulation in walls and attics across the city. That's according to the workers who used to clean out the loads of asbestos fluff from the factory ventilation system.
And you would pick up your asbestos, stuff that into the barrel, and wheel it down to the side of the building and lower it down into a truck.
From the 1940s until the mid-70s, they say asbestos was delivered every few months by the truckload. Workers, unaware then of the cancer risk, shipped it to untold numbers of homes.
At least 100, I would say.
I'd say maybe even 200.
Back in 2004, the company denied ever selling the toxic material when asked about it by the local newspaper. But we've learned GE is now quietly cleaning it up. If homeowners can prove the link to GE, the company will pay to renovate and remove it. Lab tests can easily confirm it came from their plant because it's unique, with unusually high concentrations of asbestos, posing a higher cancer risk. Until now, this cleanup program has only been shared through word of mouth. GE has fixed 24 houses so far. Even Peterborough's chief medical officer didn't know GE's been removing asbestos from area homes, 3 in the last year.
It's a full program, but they've not told people about it. Like, it's not, some of the people that
best kept secret? This was not something that I was aware of. It's definitely something we need to make people aware of.
In response to our investigation, GE for the first time is offering a 1-800 number. In a statement, GE says if local residents believe their homes may have insulation with asbestos from the Peterborough site, they may call the GE Canada Environmental Programs Information Line. GE won't answer why they've never gone public before, nor will the company discuss what's been done to try and track down all those houses that contain the asbestos brought home by GE workers all those years ago. Dave Seglin, CBC News, Peterborough, Ontario.
Major hurdles remain for Toronto's e-scooter rental pilot, which made its way to the Distillery District this month. There are concerns because there are no docking stations for these vehicles. France is having similar issues with their electric scooters, and environmentalists are asking for stricter security. The call comes after 100 e-scooters were pulled from a river, sparking fears the batteries are causing pollution. Volunteers say rivers in several cities contain hundreds of abandoned scooters. Most are rentals thrown into the water by local youth fooling around. Some cities are banning companies from having the scooters available or stored on the waterfront. Toronto will debate the issue early next month.
Someone like me could not be here without the many successful, powerful women of color who led the way. Am I right?
Canada's Superwoman makes her late-night debut. After the break, more on Lilly Singh's first show and how it's being received.
I know you used to only Jimmy's in the spotlight, but I'ma throw some melanin up in your late night. Now, America, this is you, but I'm your late night host. This used to be a boys club, but I'm knocking down the doors.
That's Lilly Singh making her breakthrough debut. She's the first woman of color to host a show on American late night TV. Yelena Azik joins us now. Expectations were high. How did it go?
Such a big deal, right? This is a woman who understands what people have been saying. She's gone from YouTube, obviously huge success there, but it is a little bit of a different game when you go to network side. And she knows what people are talking about, and she addresses it in her monologue. Have a listen to that.
Look, I get it, okay? I'm not your traditional talk show host. I mean, the media has mentioned I'm a bisexual woman of color so much that I feel like I should just change my name. A little long, but it has a nice ring to it. Come on, I'm more than just a bisexual woman of color, okay? It's a complete coincidence that I chose a network whose logo is also the pride flag.
So she was definitely ready to have a good time, but she did say that she was nervous, and she was open and honest. That's the deal with Lilly Singh, right? She's always letting you in to her world behind the scenes. So to that point, as I give you a little bit more of a look at the show, let's talk a little bit about the incarnation, the new way of doing things, because now it's not just that the networks were afraid of YouTube. They're bringing YouTube into the game and into the mix. So we know that this show dropped on YouTube first, the whole show, before it aired on the network, yes. And now what's going to happen is every single night, you're going to see clips from the show drop on YouTube again before it airs on the network. And so this is just a new way of doing things for sure. A lot of people are excited, though, to find out who her guests are going to be, because she says she's bringing on a lot of people she wants to support. Her opening guest was, you see her there, Mindy Kaling, but she also wants to bring on people like Humble the Poet and other local Torontonians that really she can bring her kind of flavor to the screen, because, or to the show, because she's all about empowerment. That's what she's always been about.
And Humble has been her partner in crime for a while here in the GTA. Now she's also a strong voice for young women of color looking up to her. I know my daughters were fans of hers. So how did she reflect on that in this first show?
Yeah, so she obviously was going to bring that into play, and it kind of came through a lot through her guest. The conversation that she had with Mindy Kaling, I'm going to give you a look at that right now, because her guest ended up saying something that was quite poignant and lovely.
If I had, growing up, seen you on TV, it would have been, I mean, I was already obsessed with late night TV, but it was like loving something that didn't like love me back. And then to have had you, I mean, it's huge. I can't wait for my daughter to watch the show. 20 years from now, when you're still doing it and wishing you didn't have to.
I mean, I think I speak on many people's behalf when I say that's how we feel about you, okay? That's how you paved the path for so many people like us.
There's definitely a lot of mutual love going on the show last night, and it really does seem set to find its footing and do well. It's in an interesting time slot, really late at night, obviously a little late as it's called, but it really seems like if the first show is an indication, she's going to bring her positive energy to it and succeed like she does in everything and prove she is a boss.
I'm sure my kids will be showing me those YouTube clips in no time.
Oh, you'll see them.
Thank you, Yelena.
See you soon, Dwight.
The two mascots for the 2022 Beijing Winter Paralympics and the Olympics were unveiled today. It's a ceremony in Beijing. So this is Bing Duen Duen, a black and white panda. It is the mascot for the Olympics. And then the red and white lantern child, you can see it there, named Shui Ron Ron, is the mascot for the Paralympics. The mascots were chosen following a competition held by the organizing committee. They received close to 6,000 designs from right around the world. The Olympics begin in February 2022, with the Paralympics starting a month later in March. I'm not sure if you're laughing at my pronunciation of those names or those mascots.
I need to commit them to memory.
Yeah,
Can you just tell me them
I'm
again?
not going to. I promise to get them right, folks, by the end of the Olympics.
I thought you did very well.
Thank you. Bing, duen, duen. Oh, yeah, the forecast?
Bing, duen, duen.
I'm practicing. Give me the forecast.
Oh, yeah, okay. Let's do that. Overnight tonight, hey, things are looking really nice into the evening hours and then overnight as well. So no active weather to worry about, mostly clear skies. We will see a little more cloud cover kind of building for the beginning part of the day through tomorrow. 12 degrees the overnight low, though. Tomorrow afternoon with that mix of sun and cloud, more sun later in the day, it looks like 22 degrees will be the high temperature. And really after that, things just kind of get even better. So we're going to continue to see sunshine through this week, even into the weekend, which is the last weekend of summer.
Yes.
As we all know. And it looks like the temperature will be building. Humidity, too.
We ain't complaining. We like it.
We, when, what was it? We, when?
That's it for our show tonight. We'll see you back here tomorrow. Right there. Bing, duen, duen.